Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishna Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namasri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. So, this is the third day of our webinar to commemorate the 125th anniversary of the foundation of Ramakrishna Mission. So, Ramakrishna Vedanta Centre U.K, which is about to complete 75 years of its existence in the United Kingdom, is very happy to invite 9 very good speakers, monks from our order, who, as it were, represent different parts of the globe. They're spread over, they represent different continents, in fact. Till now, we had representatives from South America, North America, and we had, of course, Asia, and we will have Australia. So almost in Europe, of course, is covered. But today, we have, on the third day of the seminar, we will be inviting 3 speakers to share their views, to give a bird's eye view of how the movement unfolded in their respective continents with the eternal and universal values which was practiced and preached by its founders, that is Sri Ramakrishna himself, Swami Vivekananda, Swami and the other brother disciples, and the subsequent generation of disciples who have carried forward this movement in different parts, with different cultures, different languages, different ethnicities, different religions, facing so many hurdles, so many problems. So it is worth knowing, especially when we heard the struggle in South Africa on the first day, how the movement in the entire African continent, with so much struggle, there were so many issues when we first went there. So also you will find the founders of the organization, the movement, the Ramakrishna movement, that is mission centers. Most of our centers in the West are mutt centers, but some places like Singapore, Fiji, and some other places where there are a lot of missionary activities, mission activities, in the sense there are service activities, service humanitarian activities, not only spiritual and cultural. So those activities, those centers are known as Ramakrishna Mission centers. There's a slight minor difference between Ramakrishna Mutt and Mission, but we will consider the Ramakrishna movement on the whole. So today, we are very glad that we have with us Swami Samachittananda, who is the president of Ramakrishna Mission Singapore. So he will be showing a wonderful presentation, Ramakrishna Movement in South Asia. So I'll just briefly introduce him. He joined the Ramakrishna order in 1982 and had his monastic vows in 1992, the sannyasa vows. After that, he served in Allahabad, that is Prayagraj, now it is known as Prayagraj, Shillong and Guwahati centers in India before being posted to Singapore in 2001, where he served as a vice president of the center for nearly 16 years. Then in 2016, he was posted to Argentina to serve as a vice president there. He had to learn Spanish language and he had almost settled himself there. Then again, he was called back to our Singapore center as a president. Now he is presently the president of the Ramakrishna Mission in Singapore, which is a very old center with wonderful, we will be hearing about that from Swami Samachittananda Maharaj. So he gives discourses wherever he was, whether in Argentina or here, gives discourses on Hinduism and topics of inter-religious understanding in Singapore and in Southeast Asia and other places of the world wherever he is invited. So without taking further time, we would like to hear from Swami Samachittananda about the Ramakrishna Movement in Southeast Asia. Over to Swami Samachittananda Maharaj.
Thank you. Thank you, Swami Sarvasthanandaji, for inviting me for such an august celebration of the whole order. 268 centers all around the world are celebrating from 1st of May onwards, practically for the whole year. Every center has lined up programs to celebrate 125 years of that historic event, which took place on 1st of May 1897, when Swami Vivekananda founded the Ramakrishna Mission. Here, for your introduction and for your general knowledge as a devotee and admirer of the mission, the Ramakrishna Mutt is, say, a group of monks which Ramakrishna himself consolidated. But the service activities which was necessary in the mind of Swami Vivekananda, that took place in 1997. Otherwise, from 1886, after Sri Ramakrishna's passing away itself, the brother monks started joining together. Organization Ramakrishna Mutt or Organization Ramakrishna Mission came later. So there is a very funny but very serious incident. Swami Vivekananda was in America, staying with the hosts in different places. On a particular day, he comes back and says to the host, the lady, that today I had the greatest temptation of my life. So the lady smiled and told, who is she? Swami Vivekananda told, it is not she, it is an organization. If I do not form an organization, no good work can be done for a long period of time. But if I form an organization, organization itself has limitations. On every level, there are financial constraints and there are human limitations, etc. So he eventually founded Ramakrishna Mission when he came back to India. Now, my topic today is Ramakrishna Movement in Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia, because of its proximity with the land of India, this part of the globe, this part of the world was most fortunate that out of India, Swamiji's feet touched Southeast Asia first among the countries outside India. So here I have prepared some slides. Those who are on Zoom will be able to see the slides. So with the help of slides, I will tell. One second. Okay, anyway. Are you able to see? So, before departure, there is an incident happens when Swami Vivekananda was on the hills of Mount Abu, which is on the border of Gujarat and Rajasthan in the Western India. He met Swami Turiyanandaji, one of his brother disciples, and Swamiji told, I'm going to America. Whatever you hear of as happening there, the preparation of the Parliament of Religions, etc., is all for this, striking his own chest. And for this alone, everything is being arranged there. This is few months before the Parliament happened, but Swamiji was in India, and he strongly felt that everything, whatever is being organized, is organized for this. And Swamiji went there, and history, rest is the history, that he became overnight popular. Without this media of what we have as of today, there was no media except the newspaper and radio maybe. He says to Swami Turiyanji again, Hari Bhai, I am still unable to understand anything of your so-called religion, but my heart is expanded very much, and I have learned to feel. Believe me, I feel intensely indeed. Swamiji's heart was a heart of Buddha. This Swamiji comes out of India. First time in his life, he was a young man of 28, 29, going to America. On the way, he comes to Southeast Asia first as soon as his vessel comes out of India. Now, Southeast Asian countries are 11. When we keep ourselves limited to Southeast Asian countries, there are 11 countries. Out of that, in 5 countries, Ramakrishna Mission has its presence, rather Ramakrishna Movement has its presence. Remaining 6 countries, we have yet to start any activities. Where we have centers, we have a private center in Burma, Myanmar. We have a group, there is no center, but there is a group in Thailand. There is a center in Philippines, there is a center in Singapore, center in Malaysia. So there is one private center, one established registered group, and 3 countries where we have a center. Among that, Singapore and Malaysia are the centers where Swamiji has visited physically. Philippines, Swamiji has not visited, but the center has come up. We shall see in the history. Remaining countries, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Brunei, Timor-Leste, and Indonesia, we still do not have any centers. Indonesia, there is a small group, but there is no registered group, so I didn't include them as our presence there. Swamiji started his journey from 31st of May, 1893 from Bombay. There is Gateway of India. You can see in your left the old picture of Gateway of India, in the right the latest picture. And in Swamiji's centenary time, that is in 1962-63, a Swamiji statue was erected there near Gateway of India. This is the ship called SS Empress of India. Swamiji traveled by this ship. Now, the cities Swami Vivekananda visited in Southeast Asia is 3, 2 in Malaysia and 1 Singapore. Of course, Singapore also was part of Malaysia at that time. Penang Island, Malacca, and Singapore. You can see in the map. Now, we first go to Malaysia because that comes the first. Swamiji touched the soil of Malaysia first. Swamiji lands at Penang. So this is a picture from internet, the old Penang port picture. There is a place where we feel that Swamiji would have landed there. So we saw there. I have seen the place. Historically speaking, in 1904, a group started Vivekananda Ashrama. That was the influence of Swamiji after speaking on 1893 in United States. The effect of his lecture on Hinduism and Vedanta, it touches the shore of India also and in Southeast Asia also. So in 1904, Vivekananda Ashram was started. In 1919, a center was affiliated to Ramakrishna Mission. There was a dispute about the ownership of the ashrama, and eventually Swami Videhananda was sent to Malaysia. Spelling mistake is there. So he came in 1919, but he had to go back to India in 1925. And the center Vivekananda Ashrama, which is still functioning, but it got disaffiliated with headquarters Belur Math. So from 1925 onwards, that center is functioning as a separate institution. It is still there. It's still functioning and doing educational work in different parts of Malaysia. Then in Penang, a center was started in 1935. Swami Bhaswarananda, who was then president of Singapore Center, went and started the center. 1938, it was officially inaugurated with the name Sri Ramakrishna Ashrama. 1968, Swami Vireshwaranandaji, the 10th president of our order, who was Holy Mother's disciple, visited Penang, and a marble statue of Sri Ramakrishna was installed. We have seen that temple and that ashrama. That ashrama still functions as a private ashrama. In Malaysia, we have only one affiliated center. In 1962, in Malacca, Sri Ramakrishna Ashram was founded. But up to 1997, the gentleman Govinda Raju, he continued, this ashrama is still there, it is not affiliated. 1967, Ramakrishna Society was started in Seremban, which is almost 100 kilometers from Kuala Lumpur. 1993, Ramakrishna Society was found in complex Fleda Palong. 1984, a Vivekananda Youth Movement was started again separately in Seremban. 1996, Ramakrishna Divya Sangam was started in Jalapang, which is the north of Malaysia. Sri Ramakrishna Panimandrum is a Tamil word which started as a center in Kluang. They are still in a rental place, but big devoted group of people are there, which is closer to Singapore. Then a group started which became the Persatuan Penganut Deva Ramakrishna at Sungai Siput. So these are few places are still in functioning. They are not affiliated to Ramakrishna order, but they are affiliated through the Bhava Prachar Parishad. So the present Swami Supriyananji is in connection with all of them and conducting once in a year a Mahanadu, which is the big gathering of the devotees all over Malaysia. Now, in 1959, this became later on the center of Ramakrishna Mission. In 1959, Ramakrishna Society was formed. In 1960, Swami Ranganathananji visited and Sarada Sangha, a ladies group, was formed. 1977, these two, Ramakrishna Society and Sarada Sangha, clubbed together, became Persatuan Sri Ramakrishna Sarada. That is the center of Ramakrishna Sarada. So that steadily was working and the devotees number increased. In 1999, a temple and a monk's quarter were constructed. In 2001, this center in Kuala Lumpur suburb, which is called Petalingjaya, that was affiliated to Ramakrishna Mission, Belur Math. 2011, its name was changed from Persatuan Sri Ramakrishna Sarada to Ramakrishna Mission. 2015, you find a statue of Swamiji that was unveiled by the present Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi. 2022, recently this year, they constructed 3 massive buildings which you see down. One is, center is Panchavati, the name of the temple he has given Panchavati, the temple of meditation. Malaysia is basically an Islamic country, but still they are quite Catholic and quite generous in their approach. So their meditation center is started. Vivekananda Cottage, which houses all the offices and dormitories for volunteers and devotees. And Nivedita House is a separate building where the ladies, volunteers and devotees can stay there. So now in Malaysia, there is only one center which is affiliated to Ramakrishna Mission, and that is Kuala Lumpur Center Ramakrishna Mission. Then we come to Singapore. Singapore Center, you will find in the letters of Swami Vivekananda, Swamiji writes one letter and he writes, Swamiji came to Singapore and stayed for 3 days. In Malaysia, he touched, but we do not have any record that he stayed overnight there. He came, landed, saw the place and went back to the ship. But in Singapore, he came down and stayed. Where he stayed, till now, we do not know. But he writes a letter from Yokohama. Singapore is the capital of the Straits settlements. It is a fine botanical garden with the most splendid collection of palms. The beautiful fen-like palm called the traveler's palm grows here in abundance, and the breadfruit tree is everywhere. The celebrated mangosteen is as plentiful here as mangoes in Madras, but mango is non-peril. The people here are not half so dark as the people of Madras, although so near the line. Singapore possesses a fine museum too. These are the words of Swami Vivekananda from his letters. So Swamiji came and stayed for 3 days in Singapore. Here, from spiritual point of view, I want to just remember that in the Narada Bhakti Sutra, there is a beautiful one line, which is called Tirthi Kurvanti Tirthani. This knowledge of Brahman, or the people who are realized souls, wherever they go, that becomes a place of pilgrimage. We go to the place of pilgrimage to achieve some punya or to get some good blessings. These people, wherever they go, becomes a place of pilgrimage. Swamiji came to Singapore and Malaysia, and eventually a big movement started both the places. We saw in Malaysia, in practically every part of Malaysia, though all the centers we told are the part of the West Malaysia. East Malaysia, very little habitant is there, Sarawak and Sabah. But in Singapore also movement started. Swamiji visited Botanical Garden and Museum. So these are some old photographs of Botanical Garden and the museum. In Singapore, how the movement started. Swamiji came and stayed for 3 days and then traveled towards Japan and USA. It was in 1913. President of Madras or the Chennai Center was Swami Sarvananda. Swami Sarvananda visited Malaysia and Singapore in 1913 and 1919. That's how in 1919, Malaysia also, the Vivekananda Ashrama started. And in Singapore, in 1919, a group of devotees and an organization called Arya Sangam donated 5,547 square feet land on heart of the city called Norris Road. And that was given to mission to start a center, 1919. 1921, Swami Atmajnananda, who was another disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, was coming back to India, so he came. Then Swami Paramananda and Swami Prakashananda, who are disciples of Swami Vivekananda, these three Swamis came to Singapore and Malaysia and delivered lectures. Big impact was there. A huge crowd used to come and hear the Swamis. In 1928, it was 7th of August, 1928, Ramakrishna Mission's branch was inaugurated and Belur was assigned Swami Adyananda. Swami Adyananda ji was a disciple of Swami Shivananda ji and was serving in Lahore, in Pakistan. At that time, everything was India. Till 1946-47, most of these countries were part of Greater India, where many countries were separated later on from Afghanistan, that side, in the western side, northwest, to, you can say, Myanmar, etc., in the east. It was all part of India. So, Swami Adyananda came in May 1928, and on 7th of August 1928, Singapore Center was started and affiliated. 1935 was the birth centenary of Sri Ramakrishna. A big parliament of religion was held in Singapore and more than 1,000 people attended that program. 1,000 people in 1935 is a huge figure. 1935 again, in April, Swami Ashokananda ji, who was in San Francisco and is a very good orator and a very good writer, he visited and gave lectures in Singapore in 1935. 1935, another great Swami called Swami Prabhavananda visited, who is the founder president of our Hollywood Center. So he visited, and again, he spoke on universal religion, and people started slowly understanding the spirit of Ramakrishna Mission. Here, I just want to add, Ramakrishna Mission came to Singapore, was started in Singapore, played a very important role. Singapore was a straits settlement. It was part of Malaysia, a big population of Chinese people, little population of Indians too in Singapore at that time. Then slowly, to build up the Singapore place, Singapore port and other things, a lot of laborers started coming from India. They started importing them. Ramakrishna Mission played two roles in 1930s. First and foremost, there was nobody in Singapore at that time who can authentically talk about the Hindu scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, etc. Secondly, there was no service activities among the Indian community. Ramakrishna Mission at that time provided a platform where the rich people can contribute and poor people can get help from Ramakrishna Mission. So these two roles mission started playing at that time. How they can see later on. In 1936, our educational work started in Singapore. 1st January 1936, Vivekananda School was started. Again, 2nd of February 1937, within 1 year, that school, girls were separated and Sardamani Girls' School was started closer to this ashrama. Our ashrama is called 9 Norris Road. In 38 Norris Road, the girls' school was started. 1940, not the present boys' home, but an activity started which was called boys' home. So at least 5 orphan boys were taken into our fold and mission started looking after them. 1941, the present land where we are now, mission is now on Bartley Road. Almost 5.5 acres of land was brought on Bartley Road. And originally it was intended that we should start a residential school. But then that idea was discarded and a children's home idea took up and the whole property started as Ramakrishna Mission Boys Home and Temple. 1948, Malcolm MacDonald, he was the Commissioner General of Southeast Asia. So he put a foundation stone of the orphanage dormitory, what I'm sitting in at this point of time. It was 10th of December, 1948. 1949, Swami Vamadevananda, who was president at that time, conceived the idea that we should build a beautiful temple. A very famous philanthropist of Singapore called P. Govindasamy Pillai, he came forward and donated $30,000 to construct this temple. Mission at that time, being a religious organization, also was given the status called IPC, Institution of Public Character, but in India we call it ATG, that if a donation is given to mission, the donor gets tax benefit, income tax benefit. So that status was given to mission in 1949. So on 1st of March 1949, on birthday of Sri Ramakrishna, the foundation stone was laid of this temple. 1952, on 31st of October, this temple was dedicated by Swami Madhavanandaji Maharaj, the General Secretary at that time, and he was accompanied by Swami Yatishwaranandaji and Swami Omkaranandaji. Both became vice presidents later on. Swami Bhaswaranandaji was president at that time. On 6th of June 1959, Madhavanandaji opened, dedicated this present boys' home where I am sitting now and speaking from. So this was a big achievement of the mission. The temple and the boys' home were constructed. 1963, the first Prime Minister of Singapore, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, he visited, accompanied by Mr. Rajaratnam, who also became a foreign minister later on, and Mr. Chan Chi, who was parliamentary secretary. So all of them, and Mr. Kandasamy, all of them came and visited the ashram at Norris Road and also here. 24th February 1964, Swami Madhavanandaji came again and put the foundation stone of our cultural building, where we have our library and also our main office and the monks' quarters. 1965, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew visited and presided over the birth centenary of Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda. 1975 was a big achievement that on 7th of July, 1975, a delegate of the exploratory meeting for South Asia Interreligious Consultation for Peace and a member of interreligious organization. Ramakrishna Mission Singapore is one of the founder of interreligious organization in Singapore, and the president of Singapore Ramakrishna Mission is always the council member of this IRO, that is interreligious organization. 25th of November 1975, this inaugural session, Swami Siddharthanandaji, the president at that time, spoke to the delegates and told that interreligious organization, the values and the motto with it is functioning is practically the values and motto of Ramakrishna Mission too. Ramakrishna Mission is not only a social organization, we are basically a spiritual organization. Service is our way of life. Service is the way we want to practice spiritual life also. None of the Ramakrishna Mission monks are salaried or the paid people. We are honorary people. Only the centers look after our health, etc. So, Ramakrishna Mission Social Services, though it is known as a social service organization, but it's a spiritual organization for us. So we consider service as our way of life. 1978, Swami Bhuteshananji came, though he came to Singapore many times, and he blessed many devotees with initiation. 1978, mission celebrated Golden Jubilee celebration. 1983, we had no money to look after both the centers on Bartley Road and also on Norris Road, the old center. So with the local committee and the permission of headquarters, we sold that property, which is on Norris Road. And mission fully started functioning from this Bartley Road campus where we are now. 1994, Nirvana magazine was started, and its 100th issue we published recently in 2019, January. So 1995 was a big successful year for Singapore centers, where on 16th of June 1995, we started our counseling center, which still serves. And on 27th September, groundbreaking ceremony for Sarada Kindergarten was started. Sarada Kindergarten still runs with almost 500 children, and we are proud to say that Singapore government has awarded our kindergarten 3 consecutive years as the best kindergarten of Singapore. All the efforts of our swamis and teachers and staff is responsible for this. Our present activities, we distribute our literature free of cost, small booklets in 12 languages, about 50 titles we distribute free every year, pre-COVID period, I'm telling. Now we are picking up again, but almost 9,000 to 10,000 booklets per year we distribute among the people. And our distribution system is, we just don't go and distribute. Those who visit us, they are free to pick up whichever book they want. So sponsor the books, and it's a big impact. And we purchase these books in hundreds and thousands from India and distribute freely to the people. We have to remember, India has a huge number of migrant workers, those who live on a very small salary compared to. So for them, $2 to $5 is a huge amount. So we decided to start this project from 2009, and every year we free distribute this literature. We do book sales outside our mission. We go to Deepavali book fairs and also the temple programs and all that. We run children classes on every Saturday. We have a homeopathy dispensary. We started in 1993, functions twice a week. Yoga activities is very famous. Now we do 3 times a week, and till today, more than 9,000 participants have been certified and trained and benefited from our yoga classes. In 2020 October, our mission is now part of the Heritage Trail. So people visit our center as a part of the oldest institutions of Singapore. Other activities, we have temple functions as usual, we have a library, we have a Sanskrit language class and religious classes, etc. Now we go to the center, which is not visited by Swami Vivekananda, but recently the center has been in function. So in 2001, it is a Philippine center. 2001, local Filipino devotees and some expatriate devotees started gathering. They started gathering and started having classes. Swami Medhasanandaji, who is head of our Japan center, Japan is closer to Philippines and Singapore both in middle. So he started going once or twice in a year and consolidating the work. So in 2002 to 2016, This Swamiji visited Manila once or twice yearly. On 30th of June 2007, the society was formally inaugurated. In 2008, a suitable location was found and a building was purchased in a horseshoe village in Quezon City, in the heart of Metro Manila. 6th of June 2010, this center was formally dedicated and opened. 2016, this center was affiliated to Ramakrishna Order. We have Swami Udaranandaji, who heads that center and runs multifarious activities there. Some activities to help the needy people around, and also the discourses, the Sankirtan, the classes, etc. Myanmar, we had an old center. Even if I tried, I couldn't find much photographs of that. So we have a non-affiliated center. There is a building and property. So there is a reading room and library, and there is a shrine. It's a 3-story building, still known as a Ramakrishna Center or Ramakrishna Temple. Ramakrishna Society is still running. It is not an affiliated center. The political situation is not yet that stable. So Mission Authority is not willing to re-affiliate that center. Mission used to run a big hospital at that time in Rangoon city, which was one of the best hospital of that time. But then when the military government came, so they took charge of that hospital, and the center as a cultural and religious place is still functioning. The shrine picture you can see at Yangon, that is in Rangoon, Myanmar. So that was that activity. Thailand, we have a non-affiliated group. So there is a 15-20 devotees are there, those who meet regularly. Not only that, so it was in 2004, a very energetic senior Swami who used to be head of our Fiji center once upon a time. After his retirement, he was traveling in this part of the country, this part of the globe. So he started a group in Hong Kong, and he started a group in Thailand also. So this group was later got registered in government of Royal Thai government. So it is still running, and they have 4 books which they have published. The books of Sri Ramakrishna is a partial or one part of Swami Chittananda's book. They lived with God, and God lived with them. This together they have made a small volume in Thai language. So they have 4 publications, and they are doing wonderful work. From a distance, I used to go once or twice in a year. Because of COVID, I could not. So now again, I will start going there. So that was the idea. So here is, you can get the overview of Ramakrishna Movement in Southeast Asia. These 5 countries we are working. Malaysia is working very well. Singapore has many plans ahead. Singapore Center started in 1928. So in 2028, we will be completing 100 years. So for the centenary, we already have started planning what we should be doing within the 6 years, and what we want to see Singapore Center after 6 years. That means the 100 years of our center. So now I keep the floor open for any questions, etc. Thank you, Maharaj. So this was some overview.
Yes, I will just put it on grid view.
Should I stop sharing?
Yeah, I'll do. Acha, I can stop now. Yes.
Yeah, I stopped it.
Okay. Yes. So now we will just shift to grid view, gallery view, as it is known. So if there are some questions, I will now enable people to unmute themselves, and you can unmute and ask questions, or even you can type the questions in the chat box. That also could be done.
If I can request the members who are present here to switch on their video so we can see who is there. If possible, please video, we can take a group picture also.
Yes. Can you switch on your videos, all of you? Yes, thank you. So I have enabled all of the listeners and participants to unmute themselves and ask a question. But please raise your hand if you want to ask some question. Based on, yes. So I am unmuting you. You can unmute yourself. Why you can unmute yourself? I have allowed.
Okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
Maharaj. Pranam,
Yes.
Swami.
Namaste. Yes.
Namaste. Thank you for that really complex and diverse history. I was always curious of how it worked in Southeast Asia, the mission, its message, and the affiliations. Maharaj, I know you did mention the difference between the establishment of the society and the ashrama. What is the critical difference? Could you just tell us?
If you understand, society, etc., is the local legal terms. Association, society, ashram, also they give the name even if they are not affiliated. So from our eye, from mission point of view, we have only two kinds of centers. One is affiliated center and one is non-affiliated center. Affiliated center, the administration is in the hand of our headquarters, and through head of the center, the headquarters administers the center, and local president will look after the details and run the center. Whereas the private centers or non-affiliated center have a committee and a president, secretary, and other committee members with the advice of the swamis who are closer to that center. With their advice, they run the center, and we also advise, help, visit them, and try to see what is the reason behind it, that the centers which are not affiliated, until and unless they are guided by the monks, they, for example, they start certain activities which are not in line with the Ramakrishna Mission. So in future, affiliation becomes difficult. Many centers are doing fantastic work. For example, again, it is their wish to be affiliated. It is not our wish to get them affiliated. So many centers want to function separately and independently. For example, we have a center in Penang, as I told. They have a huge building. So on the first floor, they have an orphanage boys' home. And on the second floor, they have an orphanage for girls' home. Ramakrishna Mission will never have this arrangement of young boys and young girls stay together in the same building. And this we are discussing with them and telling them that you must respect the ladies. You must give them a separate space where they can move at their will. So they are still in a process, and maybe I do not know whether they are willing to do or not. So it remains a private center. So we try to keep a contact, and if they want in future to get affiliated, all the activities should be at par with the ideals and principles of Ramakrishna Mission. So we have an affiliated center and non-affiliated centers.
Anybody else would like to ask a question? You can even start your video so that Maharaj can see you. If you like, you can switch on your videos. You can enable your videos and audios. If you want to ask a question, please raise your hand and then you can ask. Then
yeah, please.
I'm sorry, Maharaj, I'm just monopolizing this. Very curious to find out about the curriculum in the schools. Are they, how are, I mean, you have both the boys' school and the Sharda school for girls. What is the curriculum like? I mean, because we were talking in another session, it was about how can we set these educational goals and the value of the spiritual message in the education. Just tell us something so we may learn from what the curriculum is like.
Okay. So far as Singapore Center is concerned, we run the boys' home. It's a residential home for the boys, and they go to the normal schools outside. We don't run schools for the boys. Second, Sarada is a kindergarten. Is a preschool and K1 and K2, nursery, K1, K2. And Singapore context, I'm telling, that the syllabus is decided by the government, by the Minister of Education. So we practically do not have that freedom. Only there is a part which is innovation part, so that we submit our proposals and we can run. These are all on a secular basis. So religion doesn't come into picture. Say, for example, our boys' home, we have Indian boys, we have Chinese boys, we have Muslim boys, we have Buddhist, Christians, Hindus. So that doesn't make difference. But still, we have a practice of going to prayers and all that. But we cannot make it compulsory. Religion becomes an issue sometimes when there are so many communities are staying together. So the Indian way of running schools and running institution is different when you come out of India, especially the closest developed country to India is Singapore. So Singapore has its own educational system and way of running the institution. So we do follow whatever the government's guidelines are and follow the syllabus, but we do have freedom for our Founders Day. With Sri Ramakrishna's birthday, we call it a Founders Day. So we celebrate. Then we have a day in kindergarten where we celebrate the Prophet's Day. So we talk about Islam also, we could talk about Buddhism also, we talk about Christianity also. And we have teachers. You believe me, out of our 60 staff members in the mission, all departments put together, we have more than 15 who are not Hindus. They're either Muslims or Christians or Buddhists. So we are fine with that. And they are also fine with us. That's why they are continuing with us for some are more than 15 or 18 years. So education style is this. We do not follow our own curriculum. We have to follow what the government gives us. Yeah.
But can you give them some values?
We can,
which is not there in the syllabus?
Yes,
value
for example, yes, for example, in our kindergarten, we have a common prayer, which is the last message of Holy Mother.
Oh.
So we converted into a prayer. I will not find fault with others. I will find my own fault. Everybody is my own. Nobody is alien to me. This kind of we convert into a prayer and we repeat every day with the children.
So it's a universal prayer.
It's a universal
other
prayer.
than that, are you allowed to tell stories from Indian culture and other things?
We are allowed to tell, but there are limitations when the religion comes into picture. It is not only for Hindus. Our way may be of one kind, but when it goes to same rule for different religions, so people become more pushy, and then the purpose are different. So religion they want to keep out. But since Ramakrishna Mission is a religious organization, we do have prayers. But children are too small to do any kind of serious prayers. So all of our Sahana Vautu, etc. will be in the microphone throughout the school. They will hear, but they will repeat this prayer of Mother's message. Yes.
Any other question? There might be some questions on YouTube, but unfortunately I don't have it here. Some people ask questions on YouTube live. Maybe if somebody else had helped me here, I could have. Yes. You can unmute yourself, Gautam.
Yes. I have an observation about the mission presence in Southeast Asia, and I was wondering, Bali, which is a completely Hindu follower place within Indonesia, being the second largest Muslim country, is there an opportunity to have some kind of presence? Because I suppose people there are more open to the Hindu way of life and the religion. In fact, some of the temples there are more than 1,000 years old, and some of the practices they follow are not even followed in India anymore. So they were somehow cocooned and preserved some of the very old way of the Hindu way of their life. So I'm just wondering, is Bali a place where we have a calling?
Okay, Swami Sarvasthanji will agree with me. The mission's way of organizing a new center doesn't come from us that we go and start a center there. It doesn't happen there. If there are a group of people, and if even 2, 3, 4 families are there, where we have in Jakarta a few
Yes.
families, so Swamis have visited there, but it is very limited, very, very limited. Sometimes you have 8 or 10 people coming together and they are busy in their own professional life. Okay,
Yeah.
so far as Bali is concerned, we have to understand one thing, that the Hindu ways are followed, but they are all Muslims, by the way. The Muslims who follow the Hindu culture. And secondly, the temples which we are talking about, these temples are old temples where the present no worship, etc. is going on in hardly any of the temples. So it's as you just know, you use the word, that practically it is a preserved culture there. Ramayana and Mahabharata dance dramas are going on everywhere. Even if you go to the cities, it's a very typical, Indonesia is a very typical Muslim country, where on the roads, if you see, you have statues. I saw in Jakarta a huge statue, middle of the road, Krishna's chariot with Arjuna. The whole sculpture is almost 30 to 40 feet long, right in the middle of the road. So that part is okay, but they are following Islam. So Indonesia is an Islamic country, it's the biggest Islamic country in the world. But part of this, they follow the Hindu practices and they value it. We have not done that work, is still waiting for us to do. But I think in 1960s, Swami Ranganathanji visited Indonesia with the President. Suharto was interested in Vedanta, and he has told about Swami Vivekananda also. So there are 2 or 3 books in Bhasha Indonesia are published, Karma Yoga, etc. So we are still looking for, if the enthusiastic small group also is there, we want to revive those books and want to start something. Even in 2019, I got a chance to go to China, which is not in Southeast Asia. But see, this, if devotees are hearing this, you will understand. Many times it is God will do work.
Oh, there's a chapter for that. Yeah. Oh, that's quite funny. Like the subchapter.
Maharaj, you can mute everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I muted. There was one person who is unmuted. Yes.
Sure. Thank you. So in China, a professor putting his own money has published 3 volumes. Patanjali Yoga Sutra, as translated by Swami Prabhavananda. Second book is the Life and Teachings of Sri Ramakrishna and Life and Teachings of, or Life and Works of Swami Vivekananda in Mandarin. He has published, spending his money, and he translated. So I went once and wanted to go at least once or twice, then the COVID has come, so I couldn't go. But China is a big field, and during my visit, it was on behalf of interreligious organization. So we had a direct meeting with the one of the second in command in China, the ministers, and he told that we do not know about many of your religions. You are welcome so far as you unify the society, not break the society. You see, people are religion means people are worried about this. You start certain practices which are your own and nothing to do with a common man, or something universality is missing, sectarian feelings are there. So people are afraid about religion, you see. So I have distributed some of the books to them, and I told that the ideal of Sri Ramakrishna is the last thing where you hear the word fanaticism and all that. So we are more universal. The best universal part of Hinduism is represented by Ramakrishna Mission. So let us see if God wish, we'll try to do work in these 2 countries. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the long explanation and the history of have some attempts being made with Swami Rangananda and President Suharto. I just want to add 2 things to that, my own observations, because Bali is almost my second home. I almost every 3 months before the COVID, I used to travel to Bali. Some of the temples still today worship, and it's a dynasty of the priest who carries that, and it's a full what do you say, full service of prayers and worship that they do, especially
Yeah.
the temple of Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwar, temple called
Yeah.
Baisakhi temple, which is more than
Yes.
1,000 years old. The priests
Yeah.
there are basically family lineage and they are not Muslim at all. So
Mm.
Bali, it's a very unique place within Indonesia. In a
Correct.
way, the government is even trying to protect the ownership of the land
Mm.
should not go to
Mm.
the Muslims. So only the Hindus can buy the land and not the Muslims. So in a way to control, sort of at least preserve the Hindu population within Bali. So I think
Yeah. Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends in Indonesia
Yeah, I
who
will
are,
be. I will be very happy if I will be in contact anyway. You can get my contacts from Sarvastananji, and please introduce to me some of your friends. So if possible, we can do some work there. Thank you.
yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
definitely, because they are asking that question, and that is why I raised this.
Oh, okay,
But
okay,
thank
okay, okay.
you for
Thank you.
explaining it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Namaste. So thank you, Maharaj. We are very
Thank
happy.
you. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
we are
Yeah.
very happy that you could give such a very nice way with the PowerPoint presentation, a overview of all the centers in the Ramakrishna movement, not only in Singapore but also other places. Many things where we are learning for the first time, and I'm sure the devotees have thoroughly enjoyed. And in some future date, because we'll be conducting this program, this whole year we'll be celebrating in some way or the other.